spectacular false starts and a few spectacular stumbles, manages to write what we have heard today, or what's attributed to him today. He manages to write to people who thought that God was way up there somewhere and didn't care about them, who thought that their only relationship with God was, if I keep this law or make this sacrifice, then God will be on my side. He tells those people, God loves you. There is an energy, an imperative in this universe that has things in order, that is holding your life in his hands, who loves you, who wants you to lead a life of richness and joy. No matter what happens to you, no matter what your circumstances are, to know that you are of value, that you are precious, that you, no matter what you've done and how far you've fallen short, because as I say, Peter fell short in spectacular ways, you are so perfect and beautiful in God's eyes. Can you imagine the courage it would take to go out and spread that message? Can you imagine the kind of faith, courage it took Peter to make that his life's work? He was also giving people this message that, you know what? There's something after death. God's laws are stronger than death. My master died, was resurrected, is here with you today. Can you imagine telling people that, what courage that took? So I look at that picture of Peter, and Peter changes from this guy that the artist depicted in this way, and he's like white and dead, whatever. And Peter becomes a source of inspiration for me. And so does Paul, so does David, who's up there, Hosea, and lots of other saints in our church. We don't have saints because the church tells us to. We have saints depicted here because we need them. We need them. Because the spiritually lived life is hard. It is hard to go into the world every day and say, I am choosing hope rather than fear. I am believing that there's an imperative of love in this world that is stronger than the egoic fear that we all carry with us. I am choosing to see the divine in every single person, no matter what they have done or how far they have fallen short. Not to say that they're not responsible for their actions, but because I insist that the only way to heal this earth is to know that God is equally in every one of us. I see God in all things. That is a radically different way to look at the world than what we are usually presented with. And we need inspiration. We need saints. We need people who have gone before us that had courage and faith to show us how to do it. We are lucky in this church because we've had lots of saints. I was reading a history of our church this past week, and boy, oh boy, there were people of extraordinary courage who insisted that they saw the world through God's eyes when they walked out those doors. We have a window dedicated to Toby Danson, who also found his place of courage in the world. Someone who inspires us every time we look at that window to say, am I living my truest self? And God, you help me do that, because as I inspire myself to live that way with courage, I inspire everyone. I can't look at Toby's window without remembering and honoring the courage there and asking myself, do I have it too? We have just lost Marta Nielsen, who I swear is the patron saint of spiritual hard work in my life. I will always remember Marta for how deeply committed she was to her spiritual passage and how much she found joy. Well, the world said, you can't be joyful because you got cancer. Marta said, I see it in a different way. I see it with God's eyes. Marta and Toby are saints. They inspire us. And today we're going to unveil life. She did not listen to the world that said, someone with your disease cannot do this. In the last conversation I had with Heather, which was about a month before she passed, Heather was coming up with ideas for how she could make it to Bible study. Heather Cook, for me, is my saint of unlimited existence, no matter what my circumstances are. She provides us with a radically different way of seeing the world. Paul, you probably think that you put this window here because you loved Heather, because so many here loved Heather, because everyone here loved Heather. And that's a really good reason for putting a window in a church. Love is a wonderful legacy to leave behind. But that window is going to be seen by people who don't know Heather, didn't know her well. And in a number of years to come, it's going to be seen by people who have never heard the name of Heather Cook. It won't matter. Because when those people hear the story and hear how Heather lived a limitless life, found that was her courage, her way of being faithful and living through God's eyes in the world, they would be inspired. And her legacy will live on. Every single one of us has an opportunity to leave behind a lot of wonderful things in the world. We can leave behind wonderful memories. We can leave behind a lot of love. But we also have an opportunity to lead a life where we look through God's eyes when we see the world. And then we leave behind something, I think, even more precious. We leave behind inspiration. We leave behind the knowledge that if we